The X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, the X Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you would like to send me an email, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, xzoneradiotv. To email me, xzone at xzoneradiotv.com. And for all the information about the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us online at www.xzbn.net. Exonation, my guest this hour is a gentleman we've had the pleasure of having on the show before. His name is Jock Brocas, and he is a renowned evidential medium and spirit interventionist. He shares a lifetime of wisdom, experience, and knowledge of the realms of the departed and how to safely interact with them. Belief in the afterlife has reached a level of public acceptance never before seen in modern history, bringing with it an unrealistic sense of that anything paranormal must be benign. Jock's respect for the very real dangers of afterlife communication has guided his desire to assure the safety of those who wish to develop their gifts. Now, there is much into this realm that needs to be learned, and joining us tonight is Jock Brocas. And Jock, welcome back to the X Zone. Always great talking to you.
Oh, Rob, it's an absolute pleasure. It's great to be back again and have a chat and share our wisdom and knowledge with all the listeners.
Now, Jock, one of the questions I received from one of our listeners after your last visit was to ask you, the next time you were on the radio show, what an evidential medium is.
I get asked this all the time. So, an evidential medium is a medium that is able to give evidence from the afterlife that basically would stand up to scrutiny. So you and I both know that there's a lot of generalizations and cold reading and hot readings that can happen in mediumship, and what's often given out as general statements is often fishing, or it could, for instance, happen to anybody when they say, I've got a gentleman standing here, he's a bit portly, he's about 5'10", he's, and then that could be millions of people. Where if the evidence was, much stronger, for example, there's a gentleman coming through, he's given me this name, he's given me this date, he was with you the other day when you did this, or, and given information that can't readily be accepted by a sitter that has to go and validate that maybe 2 or 3 times down the line before that actually gets validated. And so that evidence then, if that then comes up against scrutiny from, science, there's no way that they can utilize the theory of the superconsciousness, because the person who was receiving the message didn't actually know the information, had to go to someone else to verify it, who then had to verify it somewhere else.
Sure.
And if that then gets verified and that information is true, that evidence is standing up. That's real type of evidence that's there. And it's not your generalized, where they're asking loads of questions instead of giving statements where they'll say, did you have a father in the spirit world? did you do this? Or I'm seeing that you need to go to the dentist or something. These are all very general statements the skeptic can basically rip into some person who's claiming, mediumship. So the information has to be validated, and it has to stand up. It really has to stand up on its own as good information. And the other thing that I'll say, Rob, is that it's almost like the old saying, like one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, and that's kind of similar when you look at evidential mediumship, because one person's evidence is another person's failure, but that evidence still has to stand up to scrutiny, whether it's personal to that person or not. It has to be accepted, and it has to, it has to stand up as real valued evidence. And so that's the difference in evidential mediumship, is being able to give much, much more in terms of, I will give you an example, and I don't normally use examples in my own cases, but I recently had a case where this actually saved the life of a gentleman. His wife had connected with us and asked us basically, to see if I could tune in or get anything from the spirit world or anything like that. She was worried about her husband.
Sure.
And I had given this person a sitting before, which I normally don't actually give anybody a sitting. But this was very, very strong because the person had a triple bypass and wasn't looking after themselves. Well, at the time, Spirit made a connection. They came through and identified where the individual was, that was not next to his wife, where he was, who he was with, the fact he was playing cards, gave him even the details of the card game, gave him the details of things that nobody even knew and only he knew, and that had to be validated when he went home. So that information that was so strong basically kicked him up the backside, and if he had been going on the path that he was going on, he wouldn't have seen his granddaughters, he wouldn't have seen his daughter, and he wouldn't have been with his wife much longer. So there's times where Spirit will come through when there's a need, and there's a deep need in order to reach someone, and that'll happen. But for the most part, evidential mediumship has to basically stand up to scrutiny, that it has to be something that is just not normal, it's not usual, it's something that's really personal, it's something that's strong, it's something that will give that person that validation that they're needing. And there's many, many different ways and many different ways of delivering that evidence, but anybody who's just given generalized information and asking too many questions, then you tend to, they could be reading what's called the morphogenetic field. It could be, the auric field. They're reading that information psychically and not actually making a connection with Spirit.
Jock, it seems that everyone you speak to who is a self-proclaimed ghost researcher, ghost buster, ghost detective, whatever they call themselves, and there seems to be, there's not a lack for words of how people classify themselves these days when it comes to the paranormal. But it seems that the majority of these people are always throwing in, well, demons are involved. What's with this new age demonology that demons are everywhere?
Here's the thing. It's not new age. Demons have existed since even way before the time of Christ. I mean, you even go to Mesopotamia, 150 years before Christ, there's mention of demons in that history. There's mention of demons in ancient Greek mythology. Plato discussed demons and possession and obsessions.
Right.
Some of the great writers, Sophocles, Euripides, Herodotus, Plutarch, these people that were great classical writers from Greek.
Oh yeah, but Jock, I'm not disputing the fact that there are demons, but it seems that all of these ghost teams and these ghost researchers are all using, or they're saying now everything is related to demonology. There's demons involved. I understand that demons have always been part of our history, but what is it with the modern day ghost investigator that makes demons so popular?
you know what? Part of me thinks that it sells, and it's almost a self-egotistical thing to say. But here's the reality: half of these paranormal teams, if they were really dealing with a demon, they would know all about it, and they wouldn't be going about brandishing it and talking about it. And at the end of the day, when they're saying that there's demons involved in everything, half of the time, it's not even 90% of the time, it's not true. And they could be doing so much damage to those people that might have an issue, or these families who are calling them in that may think they have a problem. I have a great saying that I say to a lot of people. I say, if you think your place is haunted,
right,
it possibly is. If you know your place is haunted, it isn't. Now, it's a little bit strange to say, because there is a certain modus operandi that demonic entities or demonic beings, or let's not even term them demons. Let's say malevolent force. The malevolent force has an intelligence behind it. It is not going to come out with a hat and a logo on the hat and a T-shirt and say, and letting everybody know that's a demon that's there. 9 times out of 10, when a lot of these paranormal teams are claiming that they're demons, they don't really have any real, I would say, background or evidence.
All right, we're going to have to hold it here. Jock, I have to take my first commercial break. And Exonation, if you'd like more information on our guest this hour, Jock Brocas, his website is jockbrocas.com. That's JOCKBROCAS.com. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away. Welcome back, everyone. Jock Brocas is my special guest this hour, www.jockbrocas.com. And Jock, before we went to the commercial break, we were talking about how demonology seems to be so popular. Demons seem to be so popular these days when ghost teams go out to do their whatever the hell it is they do. Now, you've been doing this a number of years. You're credible. You know what the heck you're talking about. You said you were going to come back and jump right into something, so please go ahead.
I want to give an example,
sure.
and I'm going to make two cases, like kind of like a case study. One is from a paranormal team, and I'm not going to mention them, but I saw something today on social media, and it was a video that went out, and the video had basically said, we're ready now, we're moving into whatever it was, the season of whatever they're doing, and we're ready to book all of our appointments for investigations. So if you have a spiritual problem, or if you have a demon in the house, or if you have this, or give us a call, reach out to us, we'll get in touch with you, and, and we'll deal with it. And I cringed, because I thought, seriously, this is almost like drive up to McDonald's, ask for a chicken sandwich, and get a demonologist. The first thing we have to take into consideration is the people who may have a problem. Now, I have a recent case that just came in, and it came to me, and it's actually from a very professional, a doctor level, medical doctor, and their staff who are having an issue. And interestingly, they didn't want to go out and look for ghost hunting teams. They didn't want to be exposed to the farce and the pomp and circumstance that goes with it. They wanted a professional. They wanted someone that was rational, scientific, and unfortunately, they ended up with me. So it got to me through a person of a person, and it came to me, and that's a case that I've taken on. But the interesting thing is that these people are professional. They're people of professional standing, and they recognize that they don't want the pomp and circumstance and farce there is with unprofessional paranormal investigation teams. Now, I am not putting down paranormal teams all over, because there are some really good teams that have studied courses in parapsychology, that have read literature, that understand these cases, and they will take a very professional approach and a very confidential approach. One of the things that I would never ever do is go on social media and say, "Hey, I deal with the scary things of the paranormal. Give me a call." And who are you going to call? Ghostbusters.
Right.
It doesn't
Exactly.
work like that.
Yeah.
Because we have science that we have. I mean, 90% of the time, there's a scientific explanation for the phenomena they're experiencing. And when people are saying that they've got a demon in the place, I will guarantee that phenomena is not basically in parallel to any of the demonic cases in history where there's been physiognomy, which is it's like transfiguration and mediumship, but there's a more nefarious side of it where it controls the physicality and the actual biological function of the body and changes it. These are phenomena that these people are not going up against. Pretty much they scare themselves and they then open themselves up. And here's the other thing that they do. Demonologists are not so stupid, or I wouldn't use demonologists because that's a widely unprofessional term that people use as well. But let's say parapsychologists, paranormal professionals,
Right. Okay.
certainly wouldn't want to go into a place where there's a possibility that there may be a really bad malevolent force and challenge it, because what you've done is you've just invited it. And we all know that the first stages of any diabolical possession that may take a long period of time is going to start with an invitation. There is no case that I know of in history that has just been a random. That when you investigate it, there is always a formal invitation in some way, and sometimes those invitations are not even known that they're inviting something in. And so I think that paranormal teams open themselves up stupidly, and there's many paranormal investigators where their lives have turned upside down from it. Things have changed in their life and they don't know what's happening. And I would probably wager a bet that they're being spiritually obsessed. But of course, we put it at the foot of the unprofessional teams. That, as I said, there's great professional teams. There's great parapsychologists out there, and you need a mixture of science and occult, if you like, occult practice. We need to understand both
Sure.
sides of the coin.
But let's face it, Jock. You and I both know that, as you were saying before, the majority of so-called paranormal cases can be explained scientifically.
Absolutely.
However, that isn't sensationalistic. That is not what the public wants to hear. That's not what they want to watch. They want the sensationalism. They want the Linda Blair with the spinning hair and the pea soup being spewed all over the place.
And that's the thing is, I think, and if you look at it from a psychological perspective, there's an element of being on that fun roller coaster. There's an element of people are needing excitement, and they like a good scare and they like a good horror story, and I think that's also the same with these paranormal teams. But aren't we forgetting the most important part? Out of 100 cases that might be called to, maybe there really is one that's really serious, and that's opening yourself up to a Pandora's box of problems. But not only that, think about the poor people that are suffering.
That's right.
Think about those that are actually experiencing the subjugation of malevolent forces in their life. They're the people that we need to put first, not how much information we get out there on social media about it or how many likes we get for the story, because there are people that are suffering from spiritual intrusion.
Sure.
But it is. I mean, there's an element of everybody wants a good scare. They want a good horror story.
Mm-hmm.
But really, if we really investigated it, if we really put them on the spot, would they want to experience it? I doubt it. Really, if we said, this is a real diabolical case.
What really scares me, Jock?
Dangerous.
What really scares me are these paranormal investigators, for a lack of a better word, that go in there and are basically, not only are they practicing or investigating something they really don't know what the hell they're doing, but they're also, in my opinion, at times causing undue stress and causing the possibility of psychological damage to the people that have entrusted them because of their online reputations.
Absolutely. And that's what people, and that, that's what people forget. And here's the other thing. They could actually be the cause of a real possession. Because if they go into the home and they don't know what they're dealing with, and they're not spiritually evolved enough to deal with it, I mean, really in their own lives. One thing that I take very, very seriously is I am introspective in my own life. If I have any serious cases or people asking questions, I meditate on it. I pray. There's a time when I fast, and there's a preparation for it. Do these ghost hunters do that? No, they don't. And here's the thing: when they're in that home, and maybe it's just a grounded spirit, or maybe there happened to be some kind of energetic portal that's been opened, and they start inviting and causing that communication, and then they leave. They're leaving it open. They're leaving the danger there. They're putting that family in even more jeopardy. And there may not have been a serious problem before, but now there is, because now you've actually invited something. All it takes is an invitation. And that malevolent force is intelligent. It's going to go after the weakest link or the weakest point that it can build upon. And in a lot of the cases that we study in the past, there is a serious intelligence behind them. They know what they're doing. They know how to manipulate psychologically. Then the people in the home start dreaming really bad. Then the emotions are getting out, getting uncontrolled, and they don't know what it is. And then they put it down to maybe it's then schizophrenia, or maybe there's an illness, and they don't realize that just the fact that they thought they had a ghost is now an unprofessional team has come in and opened up a Pandora's box and just left the box open right in the living room.
How many times have you been called in to clean up the mess that another paranormal team has caused?
I would love to say loads and loads of times, but I would be honestly say I can probably count it on both my hands. I would say about eight times. I would say that I've been called in after a paranormal team has been in. And here's the reason I think we need to let people know that they can call on people like myself or other people to help, is because once they've had that damage in there, and once they've had that team in there, and they've gone in with all the bells and whistles that's going on, they're terrified to reach out to anybody else. I've had lawyers reach out to me on the quiet, and they would just never, ever dream of having, paranormal teams in. They've had, psychics in to come and banish.
Hey, Jock, we've got to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Please stand by. Exonation, our guest this hour is Jock Brocas. His website is www.jockbrocas.com, and we'll be back on the other side of the news as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. And you're watching us around the world on Simul TV, Channel 21. Exonation, if you'd like to find out about all the other programming we have available for you 24/7, 365 on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit www.xzbn.net. And for all the programming on the XZTV channel on Simul TV, visit www.simultv.com, and we are channel number 21. Jock Brocas is our guest, and Jock, we are talking about the strange, the weird, the bizarre, ghost, hauntings, things that go bump in the night, demons, and much more. Well, let me ask you a very basic question. Does one's own personal religious beliefs have any effect on the type of paranormal event that they are going to be part of, if any?
No, and this is something that a lot of skeptics will say. A lot of skeptics will say that if you're part of a religious belief, then you're only going to experience that because that's what's in your religion. But I've had a case that recently came, and I made the mistake of actually saying I thought they were Catholic, and there's a case ongoing at the moment in Northern Ireland, and I immediately thought they were Catholic, and it turns out they were not. They were got no religious belief whatsoever, nothing. So it doesn't matter what religion you are. The difference in the religion is maybe the difference in the names of what we label them. So maybe in Christianity we label it as demon, and certainly within Judaism they named it as demon, and in Muslim belief systems they named it as a jinn.
Yeah.
But let's take all those labels. The way I look at it is let's remove those labels. It's a malevolent, intelligent force that has no form but has intelligence, that can take form and obsess and possess. Doesn't matter. It is not bound by religion. It's not bound by time, and it's not bound by perceptions. If the opportunity is there, so if someone doesn't believe, it may happen a different way. If someone's Christian orientated, it may manifest itself in that way in order to control the psychology of their mind, to control their mind in that way. If they're Muslim, it may show itself as the jinn. It may, so it doesn't really matter, because there's many cases where people have got paranormal subjugation, a bit of spiritual subjugation from malevolent forces, and they don't necessarily have any religious belief or any religious bearing. So at the end of the day, a malevolent force is a malevolent force, is an intelligence and energy that no matter what we label it, it still exists. And whether people believe it or not, it doesn't stop that not existing. If you don't believe in gravity, it doesn't stop you falling.
That's true.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what we label it, there is a malevolent force that exists in the universe, and it is intent on our destruction or the controlling of us. And so whether people want to call it Dibbuk, jinn, or anything else, or evil spirit, demon, or even nickname it something, doesn't matter. The fact is it's an evil force, and evil exists, and evil can cause evil in the world. I've just written a massive article on that, and suggesting that a lot of our murders, a lot of our famous psychopaths were in fact obsessed at some point, were possessed at some point, or were willed to carry out the will of that evil act. Now, of course, there will be people that will come back and say to me, yeah, but there's a lot of criminals that have used it as an excuse. Yes, I can understand that. But when we investigate even some of these crimes, or we start to look at the things that happen, there's little telltale signs, there's little manipulations of things. You need to go back into the real history of that case to understand, was this possibly someone who was obsessed by a nefarious entity, by a malevolent entity? So, it doesn't matter whether you believe in it or not, it exists. You don't have to believe in it for it not to be there. And I would say that a lot of people that say that demons don't exist, especially in the mediumship community, especially in the spiritualist community, they're very foolish in saying that, because we have it throughout all history and all belief systems and all texts. We have reference to a malevolent evil force.
Let's say somebody was to give you a telephone call and claim that they have a haunting going on in their house. You go down to the house. to do what you do best. What are some of the telltale signs that you would pick up that this person, nothing's going on in the house, that they just want their 5 minutes of fame?
It's quite easy, actually, because when you start to question people like that they may have a problem, and then they immediately think it's a demon. I've asked them very simple questions, the very simple things that you can even find out on the internet, and they can never answer it because they don't have that. They don't have, for instance, they haven't experienced things disappearing, or they haven't experienced levitation or things moving, or actually visually seeing something, or feeling that there's a foreboding, or smelling, bad smells, or witnessing an immediate change in the behavior of certain family members.
Right.
These and the things there, when something is being subjugated by a demonic being, you're not going to notice it so easily because it's so subtle. It's like the whispers in the wind. It's like it controls you without you even knowing you're being controlled. And so you have to really, really delve into that history, the history of the person, the psychological profile of the person. I mean, a lot of the times, some people are just, have either got a mental imbalance, and that could be a biological problem, but a lot of them do want the 5 minutes of fame. And when you actually ask them so many questions, and the thing is you want to ask not just one person. I've seen people where they've been asking questions and the whole family's there, and you're like, well, that's just like collaboration. They're all going to agree with it. But if you separate everybody, change all the questions, change the dynamics of how you question them, the whole, and gathering the intelligence from it, you will have to corroborate all that information and corroborate that separately at different points to be able to say, yeah, there's a possible problem here. But if you just go into a room and you start asking questions and everybody's there and they're all agreeing, and then you go, right, yeah, there's a demon here, let's get the team in, get the cameras up.
Right.
It's crazy. I've always said, even when this case that came to me with the doctor recently, they expected me, will you come down and check everything out and see results? I said, no, not yet. You'll fill in this form, and then we'll have an interview, then we'll talk about it, and then we'll gather that information, and then I may come down and see it. Then I want to carry on, I want to follow up on that, because 9 times out of 10, it's nothing.
Yeah.
It's nothing. And and here's the other thing. A lot of the times when you say, have you experienced physical injury or ailment in your body, or has the person who's been targeted, and 9 times they don't. And then if they say, yeah, I have, I've got a picture of something, and you say, well, that's nothing, because nobody has actually corroborated it, nobody has witnessed it, and the scratch that they have, they could have done when they just walked past the table or the wall.
That brings me to a question, Jock. Who is a better investigator or a researcher? Is the person a skeptic? Is the skeptic a better researcher? Is he more direct, or the believer in the paranormal? Is he a better investigator than the skeptic would be?
I would say that's a great question, actually, brilliant. And I would probably say it needs a bit of both, and I wouldn't say one is better than the other, but I think both can learn from each other. There's a problem where a skeptic will go in and will refuse to point blank even look at the hypothesis that there may be a spiritual agency. And they will look for anything that's remotely scientific, and even if it doesn't fundamentally add up, they'll still not take it on board. So you need someone who is skeptical but is open, and I think a blend of the two is excellent, because then you have. I recently spoke to a parapsychologist friend of mine. And we were talking about this, and I said I was writing an article and I wanted to quote him. And he then said, and I'm going to quote this, he then said, well, what you're saying, is big claims, and big claims need big evidence, and it throws us back to Occam's razor. I said, okay, let's go back to Occam's razor. So Occam's razor, we talk about the making so many assumptions and so many hypotheses. It's almost, there's always a simple explanation. Well, a scientist or a skeptic will take you back to that and say, well, the simplistic path is the science. That's the simplistic path, and that's what we have to do. But what if, Rob? What if the simple explanation is not the scientific path, and the simple explanation is this is spirit agency?
Well, let's try and further investigate this on the other side of my final break. Exonation, Jock Brocas is our special guest. His website is jockbrocas.com, and we'll be back as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. You're listening to us around the world on the X Zone Broadcast Network and watching us on Simul TV Channel 21. Exonation, before I get back to our guest this hour, Jock Brocas, if you would like to file a UFO report, there's now a toll-free number that you can call, as well as a website where you can go and file your UFO reports. The toll-free number from around the world is 1-800-610-7035, extension 102. That's 1-800-610-7035, extension 102. Now, to file your online report, the website is www.iuforrc.com. That's www.iuforrc.com, and that stands for the International UFO Reporting Research Center. And once you file the report, you hit submit, and it goes directly to a highly trained professional investigator who has either years and years as a military investigator or as a police investigator. These guys are not fooling around. So once again, if you'd like to call in your UFO sighting, let's try this again. If you'd like to call in your UFO report, it's 1-800-610-7035, extension 102. And if you'd like to file your online report and have an investigator contact you about your sighting, or a researcher contact you about your sighting, the website is www.iuforrc.com. Jock Brocas is our guest, and his website is jockbrocas.com. Before we went to the break, I asked you if a better investigator would be a skeptic or a believer. And why I asked you that, Jock, was because when police do investigations, you don't get a criminal to do the investigation. You get the cop. You can't have a criminal and a cop do an investigation on a criminal matter. It just doesn't work. So that's why I was asking you, because as a criminal investigator when I was on the police force, we went in looking for trouble. We went in looking for the evidence to build our case. Yeah. So, and I look at it that if you have, and based on the countless conversation I've had with members of the paranormal world who are investigators or researchers, they go in with the belief that the paranormal is real. So doesn't this taint their investigation, and as well as could it have a tainting effect on any evidence that they may come across?
Absolutely. You know what? I think I spoke to you before, Rob, and said, I am known as actually being a skeptical medium, if you can. Well, so like even in the book that I wrote, Deadly Departed, I call I call into question orbs and all this kind of stuff. You know, I'm very skeptical on what it is, and I would rather have a scientific explanation. Because believe you me, I don't want to go into somewhere that really has got a problem and then and miss it. So I think yes, absolutely. Because if you have someone that totally believes and is 100% not asking questions, even if they're a medium, even if they're a parapsychologist or there's some kind of paranormal researcher, if they believe everything and they're not questioning it all, then yes, it can be tainted. And this is why I say not everybody can be a paranormal investigator. I don't even class myself as a paranormal investigator. And I don't think not everybody can be a medium. I mean, you know what it's like these days. Every man and their dog's a medium. You walk down the town and everybody's a medium these days.
Okay, so let's say somebody needs a paranormal investigator. Let's say somebody needs a real medium. How do they go about finding the people who can actually do what they say they can do with all the disinformation that is out on the largest electronic septic tank that man has ever created, known as the internet?
I love that analogy. Well, here's the thing. Half of the time, you can go on the internet and there's so many claims and there's everything there. Professionals know professionals know professionals. And there's going to be... I wouldn't just go on a website and say, hey, these people are claiming that's who they are, let's do it. You have to have a look at their history. Their maybe not so much their cases, because cases are maybe, private, but what do they know? How are they writing? How are they putting this information in? For instance, I say to people, for a long, long time, I was never doing any lessons or any lectures or anything on YouTube. I was just so much of it. And so what I decided to do, so many people were asking me questions or reading my book. I said, right, give me your questions. I'm going to answer them on a video so that I can teach you. And then I'm going to put it on YouTube so that I can teach the public. And so they understand. And you get a feeling for the person. You get a feeling for those people. You have to use your intuition. Does this person know what they're talking about? Are they involved in circles, and I don't mean like psychic development circles, but are they involved in circles where there's professional caliber people? Are they connected with science? Are they connected to real researchers? Are these people, or is this just little Jimmy down the street and Margaret who's decided that they're going to get a camera and a couple of laser pointers and decide to go out and start doing ghost hunting and take an online course? What's the history? What's the background? And I always believe that every investigation should at least have a medium, a professional medium. And a lot of people will say that's probably not true, but I think you should, because there are certain things that a real professional medium working with a parapsychologist or an investigator will be able to pick up certain nuances, certain feelings, certain pulls and energy and changes. And they don't need to sensationalize it all. And it needs to be people that are compassionate, have empathy, not only professionalism, but don't want to go out and tell the world what they've done and put up all the reports for the world to see, that they deal with it in a professional way. And not all religious people are set up to do it either. It's not an easy thing if someone's under a spiritual problem to really, there's a big responsibility. There's a responsibility with mediumship. There's a responsibility when people are suffering from spiritual issues. And you are basically going into their lives and you're impacting those lives. And you have to be very well prepared for the repercussions, and you have to be well prepared yourself, and you have to have an air of professionalism. And people who are having problems will they'll be guided, they'll find the right people, because it'll glaringly set out to them. If you go on a site where they're saying, I did this, I was on this case, I was here, I was on this TV show, I did this, and there's nothing really professional about them, there's a lot of sensationalism, I would say, well, I kind of question it. You're looking for the person who has the professional approach, that has a valid history with it, that is connected with other professionals that they can call in and help. And you know, it's not easy, and I understand that. If somebody's really, and here's the other thing, if somebody's got a real problem, Rob, they're terrified and they don't know who to look at, they don't know who to go to, they don't know what to do.
They're scared.
I would say, you know, they would need to pray, they would need to ask for guidance, and don't just jump in. Do a bit of research. Don't just jump into the fire. I mean, that recent case I was telling you about, it only came within the last week or so. They didn't go out on the internet looking for paranormal. They knew, and there's loads of paranormal teams around here.
Sure there are.
They wanted a professional. They asked around, and, you know, as I said, unfortunately, they found me. So, and that's something that I'll be dealing with.
Hey, Jock, we've got about 2 minutes left. What's the story behind orbs?
Look, here's what I say about orbs. I'm very skeptical about orbs, and I love photography, and I'm a landscape photographer. That's how I relax. And I know that digital imagery, digital chips can take moisture and dust particles, and it can blow it up and make it look like. And here's the other thing, when people are then blowing up these orbs that they find that have been processed through the digital chip, and they see things, as far as I'm concerned, that's pareidolia. They're basically making that image and making it fit. So, and that can also be a bit of a dangerous thing as well, especially if they get too heavily involved in it. So I'm very skeptical. Where I will question an orb or an energetic anomaly like that is if that anomaly is reacting to intelligent thought or intelligent consciousness, or has an intelligence of its own and responds to conscious expression, or responds in some way that is just not normal, like a floating piece of dust or moisture. That's the only time when I will consider that we need to look into this anomaly a bit more, because 90% of the time, unfortunately, guys, and whoever's listening to this that loves orbs, I'm sorry, but 99% of the time it is pretty much digital processing and dust and moisture. But if it has a consciousness and it has an intelligence and it reacts to stimulus, then I might think, yep, okay, let's have a look at this. This may be something we need to look at.
Hey, Jock, you and I have to say so long for tonight. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Always a great pleasure. And quickly, give our listeners your website.
They can find me on jockbrocas.com, and they can also listen to me on YouTube by just searching for Jock Brocas Medium. And if they've bought Deadly Departed and they have questions, I have a special readers group. They can search on Facebook, join the readers group, ask questions, and I answer them. I hold nothing back. I answer educationally and try to teach people as much as I possibly can. All
right, Jock, thanks very much for joining us tonight. Always a great pleasure. And X Zone Nation, I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break with the news as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network, and on television on Simul TV Channel 21. I'm Rob McConnell. Don't go away.